Well, Saquon Barkley just picked up another offseason accolade, but this time it's left Philly fans in two different camps. However, when you look into the Madden Curse history, there's really not a reason to be so concerned, which is the same thing for the Eagles' offense. Yes, even with a new offensive coordinator in Kevin Patullo. Because despite not calling plays, there's several nuances that you can pick up on from what he'll bring to the Birds' offense this season. And let's just say the outlook is really promising. So let's talk about that, plus a look at Howie Roseman's latest signing and everything else around the Birds. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Well, it looks like Saquon Barkley is picking up another offseason accolade, but the latest one has certainly created quite a stir on social media. FYI, what I'm referring to is the fact that Barkley was revealed as the cover athlete for Madden 26. Which, I mean, yeah, after his move against the Jaguars while wearing the Kelly Greens, it was pretty much a given. Especially once the Super Bowl was won and 2K say helped the Birds to one of the greatest seasons ever. Like, you can't tell me 26 wasn't the easiest and best option to launch the game with. However, the concern, as it is every single time this thing is announced, is did EA Sports just curse Philly?
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
I get it, crazy things have happened to past cover athletes. However, when you do a little bit more digging, the supposed curse is not really as bad as you think. Now sure, Madden 25, last year's version featuring Christian McCaffrey, isn't the greatest argument, considering the 28-year-old dealt with nagging injuries that left him looking like a shell of himself even in the 4 total games he managed to get on the field. But the year prior, Madden 24 had Josh Allen where he scored 40-plus touchdowns and helped Buffalo make the postseason. And then Madden 23 paid tribute to John Madden after he passed away in late 2021, followed by 2022 putting both Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes on the cover. By the way, that season Tom Brady threw for 5,300 yards and 43 touchdowns at 44 years old. Meanwhile, Mahomes tossed another 37 touchdowns while leading the Chiefs to the AFC title game. So yeah, not much of a curse there. For the record, 21 had Lamar Jackson coming off of an MVP season, and even though he didn't win MVP again the following season, I wouldn't say the cover cursed him by any stretch. Also, 2020 was Mahomes, which they won the Super Bowl that year. Anyway, I could keep going down the line there, and sure, there's some crazy examples altogether, but it really goes both ways. But again, if you're judging by the numbers, just 3 of the last 11 cover athletes have been cursed. And better yet, there hasn't been back-to-back curses since 2011. Just saying, if you believe in those sort of things, then the odds say there'd be a reprieve this year. I don't know. Ultimately, for me, I don't care either way. I just think it's cool seeing Saquon get the recognition he deserves. Which reminder, as always, I'm going to give away this signed Saquon Barkley Super Bowl helmet as soon as we get to 130,000 subscribers. So we're almost there. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure to drop a like on this video, and good luck to you. And come on, why wouldn't you get entered when we're talking about a dude who became the first Eagles offensive player to join the 99 club in Madden? And for the record, the first Eagles player to grace the cover since Donovan McNabb 20 years ago. It's fine though, you guys tell me if I'm crazy. Are you a fan of this Saquon award, or do you hate that it actually happened? Either way, personally, I'm not concerned, and this offense is going to be dominant. And believe it or not, but new offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo might be even better for it than Kellen Moore was last year. Don't worry, I'll get there in a second and explain exactly what I mean. Yet I did also want to bring up just how important the Philly culture is and how obvious Howie Roseman has made it toward the moves he's making. I mean, when you see the trading away Bryce Huff to San Francisco and probably more telling dealing CJ Gardner-Johnson to the Texans for what appeared to be a head-scratcher, the Birds are placing a premium on having the right guys so that the team is connected and that the chemistry is at an all-time high. Heck, just look at the draft picks this year, and practically every player had a previous connection to whether it was a coach or a player or a combination of both. Granted, it was strange to not see Howie Roseman take a single player who came in for a top 30 visit in this year's draft, but like he admitted later, they utilized the relationships and players who could speak more about a player's character and whether or not they'd fit in the room well. So, in the spirit of relationships, it wasn't a major surprise for Kevin Patullo to land the offensive coordinator position when Kellen Moore left for the New Orleans Saints. However, be that as it may, judging by previous instances of internal promotions, I can totally understand that there's a little bit of anxiety here. Especially when KP kind of speaks like Nick Sirianni and coaches like Sirianni and even looks a little bit like Sirianni.
They are the same.
Hold on, there's some differences here, and I think there's a lot of untapped potential with Patullo. Although there are those who remain in denial.
AJ told me, well, players tell me that the offense is really the offense.
No doubt.
They don't care who the corner is. You come over here to fit the Jalen Hurts offense. No.
Unfortunately, it's impossible to know exactly who said that, even though, yes, Shady's talking about it there in the clip, but sometimes it's just for clicks. I will say, ultimately, at the end of the day, like, what franchise is not building around their franchise quarterback? After all, I'm pretty sure it was Jalen who got the $255 million contract, not the offensive coordinator. I mean, it's kind of a given, but the best coordinators find ways to maximize the talent they have. Yet no one's saying that means we're going to get a stagnant offense that teams can diagnose before plays have been made. Because Patullo shared the offense will grow and change. And not just because he's a new coordinator, but because it needs to change constantly to keep defenses guessing.
You want to make sure they're confident in everything that they can do, and you want to be confident as a coach that you put them in that position so that they can go out there and do their best. We go through the process at the end of each year of examining what we do well, what we need to improve upon, and then really any trends or anything we see that we can add to it. So I think really when you say different, I think it's going to be like, what do our players do best, like it's been? And then from there, we just expand upon it. Hey, we're really good at this. Let's bring this to the table and try this and see where we can take it. I think as we go forward, as we build this thing together as a staff, you'll see some new wrinkles here and there, but more so it's just kind of building on what our players do best.
The more I hear from KP, it's no wonder so many players spoke up in supporting him to be the next OC. For real, with 4 years with Sirianni and Hurts in Philly, the importance of keeping some cohesion and continuity can't be overstated. Something Patullo said is one of the biggest benefits since he knows the guys, understands them and their skill sets, and has been in every room with the quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. Of course, if you're like me, one of my biggest questions continues to be, will we still have motion? Because, that was Kellen Moore bringing that to the offense. And also, will we continue to have blitz beaters? Because we all remember what it was like before Kellen Moore drastically improved those areas. Once again, though, Patullo worked with Moore very closely, and it's easy to hear how much motion and details mean to him.
Anytime you can get around somebody that's different, kind of outside your circle or new, right, it can expand your knowledge, right? It just kind of tests you, and it brings something different to the table and a new piece of information that you may not have had. And him and I worked very closely last year together on, putting the offense together, and it was fun. I learned a lot from him, and I think the same from back and forth, right? We had a lot of conversations back and forth, what he had done in the past, whether it was Dallas or the Chargers, and what we had done here, and trying to bridge that as a staff was unique. That doesn't happen a ton, and it was really, really successful, obviously, but benefiting from his knowledge and being able to ask questions to him and the back and forth conversations. And during games, it was the same kind of thing, the back and forth. We had a very unique relationship. We didn't know each other prior to. And, it went quickly to where we trusted each other, and I could lean on him and he could lean on me. So, working with him last year was a huge benefit.
We're going to have a little bit of motion here. He's trying to assess if this is zone or man early. So he has this middle open shell look right here, which gives him a zone look. And once the motion starts to go, we're starting to declare these defenders and try to push them across to try to move everybody in position. Now, what's going to happen here, once the ball snapped, he's got to find his key read. The routes are going to start to develop, and what we're going to see is he's got to get his eyes on this backside safety. So is it cover 2? Is it cover 4, where this safety's hanging backside and going to double DeVonta? Or is he pushing across to number 3? So if you let this thing go right here, you can see his eyes are right here on the safety. He starts to push across because the backer is now feeding this route to him, and then Quez is underneath, and this linebacker is taking this route. So now DeVonta has a one-on-one post route off the corner. This safety is going to be out of it because he has this quarter with this corner right here on an in cut with AJ. So as you see this play start to develop, you can see right here, he quickly diagnoses this. The safety is grabbing this crossing route right here, and DeVonta is one-on-one. DeVonta does an unbelievable job of sticking at the top of the route, crossing the corner's face. We have great protection, and it's a perfect play. Touchdown.
That's something you saw from him at Alabama the time and time again in that Heisman Trophy campaign. How is it that you have a player that is that refined as a route runner coming out? What is it like working with that once he gets to the NFL?
When guys are really good in their detail and fundamentals, it makes it easy as coaches because now you can just teach them schematically where we need them to be and then how to get there. So, there's so many routes that DeVonta runs each week where he's winning because of just the detail. And this is a route right here that you're going to show. This is another one here on the first third down of the game where he won again off technique and detail right here. So this is another one we use a little bit of motion to give a man zone. And if you go back to the start of the play right here, Jalen's got a pretty good clue that this is some kind of man on this side, right? We got 3 receivers on this side, a tight end over here. So we're in a 1-by-3 formation. And what we're trying to do is isolate everybody in one-on-ones. So AJ's got a one-on-one, DeVonta's got a one-on-one, and we're Quez across and Jack across this way for an underneath guy. Now, with this being said, Jalen's got to make a decision. Hey, what's my best one-on-one? Do I like AJ? He's running a vertical route. Or do I like DeVonta, who has off coverage? Okay, and he's slightly inside, and he's feathering back right here. And the reason why we're doing this is try to sell a crossing route. So DeVonta, this is back to his technique and fundamentals, does a great job of getting his eyes up, selling the crossing route, and snapping out of this thing to the boundary down here. If you look at it, it's a great job. This is high school open right here. This is unbelievable. So Jalen, it's great protection. Again, throws it on the boundary and we're wide open. If you watch the end zone copy here, you can see DeVonta really stick the top of this route right there, really stick it, use head deception, really stick his foot in the ground and get out of the route. And he is wide open. And it's a great job of Jalen just being patient, hanging on the route, and getting the first down. And that was a big first down. Obviously, we had those penalties, so that was a big first down for us to get it going.
So a big game here for DeVonta Smith. We've seen 2 catches from him, but another big one for A.J. Brown as well. Let's take a look at his second touchdown catch of the day.
Yeah, so this is a play. We've run this formation a lot, and so really what we're trying to do is get A.J. one-on-one again. We're trying to run Zach on a bubble. Jalen's going to pump the bubble, and then DeVonta's going to run an outbreaker again. And what we're trying to do is just create one-on-ones. And so we got another man read again for Jalen. He's gonna pump this. Their eyes, they're playing man, but if you watch them, it's soft man, so their eyes are still in the backfield because they're trying to read what's happening. So he takes away the bubble, and then now we have a one-on-one, and DeVonta is out leveraged, but AJ has great leverage with inside position here on the go route. So as you see it develop, AJ does a great job of really digging and closing cushion, because this is a go ball, so he's got to get side to side, hip to hip with this defender in order for it to work. Now, it's a great ball by Jalen. I mean, protection's great. He gives him a chance. Now, the cool part about this is the technique in which AJ uses to catch this ball is pretty tremendous. Not a lot of guys can do this. He uses what's called a late hands technique. So he's running hip to hip with this guy. He finds the ball in his vision, doesn't give it away, doesn't give the defender a chance to make a play, and really just waits to the last minute until the ball's in place to put his hands up to make the play. If we're hip to hip and we're running next to each other and I put my hands up early, you're gonna turn and probably knock it out, right? So if we're running hip to hip and you don't know and I'm looking, all of a sudden the ball comes in and I can late hands it, I'm gonna late hands it all day. And he makes a tremendous play, keeps his feet in.
You guys let me know in the comments, but I'm not too concerned about Patullo taking over as the OC. Now, I understand the fact that he has not called plays before, so he's got to understand sequencing and play calling and everything from that dynamic, but he's literally got the next several months to go up against Fangio, and you think Fangio can't get him ready for game speed there? It's going to be perfectly fine. Plus, you tell me if I'm wrong, but 2023 felt like it was way too much reliance on one-on-ones to beat the guy in front of you. Now, that's not to say the offense wasn't player-centric. It was, and it will always be. But Kellen Moore helped create a blueprint for putting the guys in the best positions to make plays, which also happens to be one of the biggest areas of focus for KP.
My approach, right, is put the players in the best position they can to be successful. And then that's what it comes down to. You want to make sure they're confident in everything that they can do, and you want to be confident as a coach that you put them in that position so that they can go out there and do their best.
All right, on one hand, I've seen the thought about, well, teams have tape now, they know what Philly does, so if they're going to keep it similar to what Kellen Moore had, then, they got a leg to stop them. And while the majority of personnel has said the Birds will try to keep as many similarities to Kellen Moore's offense as possible, they do have a few tricks up their sleeve.
There's some nuances that are different. Ultimately, we just have to find ways to play complementary football, continue to build off of what we've done, but also knowing that it's only a template. It's only a reference in a sense, and you got to continue to grow from that and learn from, the good references and the not so good references in the sense of what our success was. And so just building that out, it'll evolve. It'll be what it'll be. Whatever it is, let's just find ways to win.
Sure, does anyone really care what it looks like as long as we get the win? Yet I'll still say, for Patullo, he's got a crazy amount of knowledge that he can use, working for 6 different NFL franchises along with experience designing plays. Also, going back to teams having some film on the Eagles, they've got an idea of what Philly has done previously, but nobody's seen KP's offense, which, judging by his comments of Chan Gailey being his biggest influence, it's fair to say it's going to keep teams guessing.
I've never felt like I had a great handle on Chan. I feel like he does a lot of things. And a lot of things based on personnel. I've always felt that Chan had a lot of versatility to him and a lot of different looks. But I'm being honest, Chan I always felt was a little difficult for me to truly get a handle on. I never felt like I could say, oh, this is what Chan Gailey does. I know that for sure.
The fact that Gailey had a 46-year coaching career with not any really consistent tendencies kind of speaks for itself. Of course, fine, you could make the argument that maybe that's a bad thing, especially judging by Gailey's sub-500 record as a head coach. However, Gailey also never had anywhere close to the amount of talent that Patullo has in Philly. Who knows? Time will tell how this thing plays out, but I'm very optimistic in this offense, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they were to surpass the numbers from last season. So that's kind of my prediction there. I think 26.8 points per game was where they were at. But you tell me, what's a successful season look like for Kevin Patullo and the offense? We can say Super Bowl, sure, but for Kevin Patullo and the offense, what is a successful season for you? Again, returning 10 of 11 guys on the offensive side of the ball is an insane luxury that not many teams have, like the Detroit Lions, for example, who shockingly will be without starting center Frank Ragnow after he announced his retirement. The wild part is that Ragnow was just 29 years old and had been named an All-Pro in back-to-back seasons. Now, it's worth mentioning that there had been some contract disputes previously, but going all the way to the point of retirement speaks a whole lot more than just a money issue. Meanwhile, as Detroit is losing an offensive lineman, the Eagles signed another one in Marcus Tate, which, if you're not familiar with Tate, he was an undrafted rookie from Clemson who participated in the Birds rookie minicamp earlier in the spring. Look, the 22-year-old started 37 games at Clemson, but dealt with several injuries, which may have caused him to fall in the draft. However, if he can stay healthy, Tate's a guy that Anthony DeBona has down to push for a spot on the practice squad. Not gonna lie, adding another offensive lineman to an already very deep squad, especially at offensive line, was unexpected. At the same time, Howie Roseman has said you can't really ever have too many, so maybe that's the reason for going with that move. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on this video, KP's offense, the confidence there, who the next signing should be for Philly, everything else around the Birds. As always, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. This has been the Philly Special.